3:47 a.m., March 15, 2025, Medina, Washington. The rain fell in sheets against the reinforced windows of the Bellevue FBI field office as Special Agent Marcus Chen reviewed the surveillance photographs one final time. The mansion sat on 5 acres overlooking Lake Washington, its modern architecture a testament to American entrepreneurial success. Glass and steel, clean lines, the kind of home that appeared in architectural magazines and tech industry podcasts. In 14 minutes, that mansion would become a crime scene. Operation Cascade had taken 18 months to construct. 18 months of wiretaps, financial analysis, confidential informants positioned within supply chains, and coordination across 3 federal agencies. What began as a routine money laundering investigation into Pacific Northwest tech sector accounts had spiraled into something far more sinister: the discovery that a $247 million cartel cash pipeline was flowing through one of the region's most celebrated entrepreneurs, with explicit knowledge and active facilitation by 83 state and federal officials. 83. The scale defied comprehension even as Chen held the ledgers in his hands. Customs agents accepting bribes, prosecutors dismissing cases, state police providing protection details for shipment routes, Seattle City Council members receiving quarterly deposits, a DEA supervisor in Portland actively redirecting investigations away from distribution centers. The mansion's owner, David Kessler, age 52, who had built Zenith Technologies into a $34 billion enterprise. His foundation donated to children's hospitals. He sat on the boards of 3 universities. Tech journalists had profiled him as a visionary, a self-made billionaire who embodied the Pacific Northwest's innovation culture. His Wikipedia page featured 17 photographs of him accepting entrepreneurship awards. None of those photographs showed what the FBI had documented in the past 6 months. The discovery phase, December 2024. The initial break came through maritime surveillance. A routine Coast Guard inspection of a cargo vessel registered to Zenith Technologies' supply chain subsidiary revealed a container marked as computer components. Inside the sealed unit, agents found 27 kilograms of fentanyl, 38 kilograms of cocaine, and 14 kilograms of methamphetamine. The street value exceeded $9.2 million. The shipping documentation was impeccable. Manifests aligned with customs declarations. Barcodes matched tracking systems. The only anomaly emerged when FBI financial analysts began mapping the subsidiary's cash flows backward through a network of shell corporations across Delaware, Nevada, and the Cayman Islands. The pattern became visible once analysts understood what they were searching for: monthly deposits of precisely $2.3 million entering Zenith subsidiary accounts, deposits that bore no relationship to actual tech manufacturing or sales. These deposits cycled through overnight, emerging as payments to contractors, consulting fees, and infrastructure upgrades that existed solely on paper. The $247 million divided by 18 months equals $13,722,222 per month average. The mathematics alone indicated systemic penetration at institutional levels. Chen assembled a task force. Treasury Department specialists analyzed wire transfer patterns. IRS criminal investigators reconstructed financial networks spanning 4 continents. ICE agents positioned undercovers within supply chain operations. The Department of Justice assigned federal prosecutors with counter-narcotics expertise. What they uncovered methodically was not merely criminal activity, it was corruption infrastructure. The Corruption Network. January 2025. The first official turned was a Customs and Border Protection supervisor named Harold Vasquez, presented with documentary evidence of $340,000 in deposits to his children's education accounts. Deposits corresponding exactly to dates when specific shipping containers avoided standard inspections. Vasquez acknowledged the arrangement. He identified 5 other CBP officers participating in the protection network. Each identified official implicated others. The network expanded exponentially. A Seattle Police Department captain had provided advance warning of planned narcotics sweeps in residential neighborhoods where distribution occurred. A King County prosecutor had dismissed 17 drug trafficking cases, each targeting mid-level distributors who might have provided information upstream. A Washington State Patrol commander had assigned troopers to specific highway monitoring stations, radioing warnings of DUI checkpoints that might have intercepted shipment vehicles. The FBI documented payments to 83 officials across jurisdictional boundaries, 32 federal employees spanning 6 agencies, 41 state and local law enforcement officers, 10 judicial system employees including prosecutors and court administrators, 23 political figures ranging from city council members to a state senator. The sophistication of payment mechanisms revealed operational understanding at sophisticated levels. Direct deposits were avoided. Instead, payments flowed through intermediaries. Consulting contracts to shell companies, real estate transactions at inflated prices where the difference represented payment, charitable donations to organizations where officials' family members held positions, medical billing systems where phantom procedures justified transfers. The amounts varied strategically. Small officials received $8,000 to $15,000 monthly. Mid-level supervisors received $35,000 to $60,000. Senior officials with gatekeeping authority received $120,000 to $180,000 monthly. The total represented approximately $13.7 million in monthly corruption payments, recycled from cartel proceeds flowing through Zenith Technologies' financial infrastructure. The Architecture of Distribution, February 2025. What the corruption network protected was a distribution apparatus spanning the Pacific Northwest and extending into California and Nevada. Agents mapped 17 primary distribution centers, 83 secondary distribution points, and a network of 446 retail locations where fentanyl, cocaine, inosfera, and methamphetamine were sold in quantities ranging from individual doses to kilogram volumes. The operation generated estimated retail revenue of $847 million annually. Net cartel profit, after all expenses including the corruption infrastructure, was projected at $312 million yearly. Kessler's personal involvement proved deliberate and comprehensive. Wiretap evidence captured his direct participation in operational decisions. He approved shipment routes. He authorized payment amounts to officials. He maintained personal communications with cartel intermediaries using encrypted messaging applications. In one recorded call, he discussed the quarterly adjustment of official payments, noting that 2 federal agents required increases because their agency's internal audit procedures had intensified. Mike Kessler understood precisely what he was facilitating. He understood that the fentanyl flowing through his distribution network was killing an average of 17 people daily across the Pacific Northwest region. Autopsy data analyzed during the investigation documented 6,238 fentanyl-related deaths in the operational territory over the 18-month investigation period. Kessler's personal profit from the cartel arrangement exceeded $182 million. The coordinated strike. March 15, 2025. The operation launched at 4:01 a.m. across multiple jurisdictions simultaneously. 73 FBI agents struck 5 locations in the Seattle metropolitan area. ICE deployed 38 agents across secondary sites. DEA teams coordinated raids on distribution centers. Local law enforcement, operating under federal supervision, secured 22 additional locations. The primary target remained the mansion. Chen led the entry team himself, watching as tactical units breached the reinforced front entrance. Kessler was located in his 3rd-floor office, seated behind a desk manufactured from reclaimed oak, attempting to delete files from a computer system. Agents secured him without incident. The search revealed documentation that exceeded initial anticipation. A personal safe contained $4.2 million in currency. Laptop computers held encrypted files containing communication records with cartel operatives, payment authorizations, and operational planning documents. Financial ledgers detailed 18 months of transactions with forensic precision, dates, amounts, recipient names, operational purposes. In the mansion's basement wine cellar, the agents discovered $67 million in additional currency, packaged in vacuum-sealed units, stored within concealed compartments constructed behind false walls. The money was organized methodically, in denominations sorted by value, with color-coded dividers indicating allocation purposes. The scale staggered the agents conducting the search. $71.2 million in currency recovered from a single location. Preliminary analysis suggested this represented merely the operational cash reserves, money held for immediate expenses, payroll, and emergency liquidity. Simultaneously, arrests proceeded across the corruption network. Federal prosecutors working with the FBI arrested officials at their residences, their offices, and in some cases during their commutes to work. By 11:47 a.m., all 83 officials were in custody. The institutional aftermath, March 15th to 17th, 2025, Attorney General Merrick Garland delivered a statement at the Department of Justice headquarters at 2:15 p.m., standing before a backdrop containing the FBI and DEA seals, flanked by representatives from Homeland Security, Treasury, and the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Washington. Garland addressed the gravity of the operation's scope. Today, Garland stated, The Department of Justice has dismantled an unprecedented criminal enterprise that corrupted 83 public officials across federal, state, and local jurisdictions. This operation represents one of the most extensive corruption investigations in federal history. We have seized $247 million in cartel proceeds. We have interrupted a distribution network responsible for an estimated 6,238 deaths across the Pacific Northwest, and we have arrested the individuals who profited from that suffering. FBI Director Christopher Wray, speaking subsequent to the Attorney General, emphasized the investigative methodology. Operation Cascade employed 94 federal agents, utilized 847 hours of wiretap surveillance, and required coordination across 6 federal agencies and multiple state and local jurisdictions. The corruption infrastructure we uncovered was systematic, hierarchical, and deliberately designed to exploit institutional vulnerabilities. Each individual officer, supervisor, and official made conscious choices to betray their oaths. Those choices will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of federal law. Charges proceeded rapidly. Kessler faced counts including racketeering conspiracy, money laundering, drug trafficking, and bribery of public officials. Prosecutors indicated they would seek 45 years in federal prison. Of the 83 officials arrested, charges range from basic bribery to conspiracy to distribute controlled substances. Federal prosecutors indicated that approximately 68 officials would face felony convictions, with sentencing recommendations ranging from 18 months to 12 years in federal custody. The evidence chain, March 16th to 20th, 2025, federal prosecutors released a comprehensive charging document spanning 473 pages. The document detailed financial flows with precision that left no ambiguity regarding criminal intent. Each transaction was dated, documented, and traced to specific operational purposes. The evidence against Kessler proved particularly comprehensive. Wiretap recordings captured conversations where he discussed operational details with cartel intermediaries. Financial records documented his personal receipt of $182.3 million in criminal proceeds. Search warrant materials revealed communications where he explicitly acknowledged the lethal consequences of fentanyl distribution, noting in one message that the mortality rate validates our pricing model. Against the 83 officials, evidence ranged from direct payments to communications acknowledging receipt of bribes. In several cases, prosecutors had documentary evidence of officials explicitly agreeing to facilitate specific criminal operations in exchange for specified payment amounts. The federal prosecutor Sarah Mitchell, heading the prosecution task force, made a statement emphasizing the systemic nature of the corruption. What we uncovered was not individual corruption. This was institutional betrayal. These officials collectively abdicated their responsibilities to the public. They constructed a system designed to guarantee cartel operations would proceed without law enforcement interference. They murdered innocent people through their choices, not directly, but through deliberate actions that enabled mass distribution of lethal drugs. The evidence demonstrates knowledge and intent at every level. Ignorance will not be a viable defense. The Institutional Reckoning. March 21st to 31st, 2025. Investigation extensions revealed institutional vulnerabilities that enabled the corruption. The Office of Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security initiated a comprehensive review of Customs and Border Protection's oversight mechanisms. How had 5 CBP officers coordinated payment receipt without detection? How had internal auditing procedures failed to identify the anomalies? The Department of Justice launched a review of prosecutorial decision-making in the Western District of Washington. How had 17 drug cases targeting mid-level distributors been dismissed without supervisory review? What procedural failures had enabled a single prosecutor to exercise that discretionary authority without oversight? The FBI initiated an examination of its own field office's pre-investigation surveillance data. The vessels carrying contraband had been flagged in Coast Guard databases 3 months before the investigation officially commenced. Why had this information not triggered earlier investigative action? These institutional examinations proceeded parallel to criminal prosecutions. By the end of March, 23 officials had agreed to plea agreements. By the end of April, an additional 38 had negotiated guilty pleas. Only 22 officials proceeded to trial. The aftermath, April 11th, 2025. David Kessler remains in federal custody awaiting trial. His bail was denied. Prosecutors successfully argued that his control over vast financial resources, combined with demonstrated willingness to corrupt government officials, presented substantial flight risk and danger to the community. Zenith Technologies filed for bankruptcy protection. The corporation's assets were frozen pending resolution of criminal proceedings and civil asset forfeiture actions. Shareholders filed civil suits against the company's board of directors for gross negligence and failure of fiduciary duty. Of the 83 officials arrested, 68 have been convicted or agreed to plea arrangements. Sentencing proceedings continue into May. Early sentences have ranged from 18 months to 8 years. Federal judges have emphasized the gravity of institutional corruption in their statements during sentencing hearings. The $247 million in seized cartel proceeds has been distributed to affected communities through a comprehensive victim compensation fund. The funding has established treatment programs for individuals struggling with opioid addiction, counseling services for families affected by overdose deaths, and prevention initiatives in K-12 schools. The investigation cost $4.7 million and 18 months of focused federal effort. It disrupted a criminal enterprise that had operated openly for 2 years. It prevented estimated $1.2 billion in future cartel proceeds from flowing through the Pacific Northwest. It resulted in the conviction or pending conviction of 1 billionaire entrepreneur and 83 public officials. But the core question remains unresolved. How many other enterprises operate with equal sophistication? How many other corruption networks remain undetected? How many other officials accept bribes in silence? Their choices enabling the distribution of lethal drugs across American communities? Operation Cascade answered specific questions. It did not answer whether the institutional vulnerabilities it exposed have been adequately remedied. That question will require vigilant attention from the federal law enforcement community, from oversight bodies, and from the public itself, because institutional corruption flourishes in darkness and is deterred only through sustained commitment to transparency, accountability, and relentless investigation of institutional betrayal wherever it emerges.